Hey guys, this is Shadow Dancer Bob, and you're watching World of Warcraft Lore Lesson 1. This is the first episode in this series, so feel free to give feedback on what you think. Today we're talking about Tirion Fordring. You've probably heard of him, but you don't know much about him. Even if you do, you can still learn more. Anyway, let's go back in time, about 18 years after the Second War. Tyrion was Lord of Mardenholde Keep. Mardenholde Keep is a fortress within the town of Heartsglen in the Western Plaguelands. It is a very famous keep because it was never conquered by the Orcish horde. Back in the day, Tyrion was the governor of Mardenholde Keep. He was also one of the first paladins of the Silver Hand, as well as a veteran and hero of the Second War. Now, Tyrion had a wife and a small child. His wife was named Corandra and his son was named Talon. Maybe you've heard of Tirion Fordring. He's in Mardenholde Keep and he is also the High Lord of the Scarlet Crusade. Now, let's get back to Tyrion. He was going hunting one day when he saw an abandoned tower that was nearly collapsed. He came close to examine it and saw an orc standing there. The orc's name was Eitrigg. You've probably heard of him if you play for the Horde. He's the orc standing next to the war chief. Anyway, Eitrigg and Tyrion fought. Eitrigg cornered Tyrion into the tower and the tower collapsed upon him. Just before he lost consciousness, he saw a pair of green hands grabbing him. He awoke 4 days later and had been severely injured, but luckily a young paladin by the name of Barthalos had been there to heal him. Tyrion had been wondering for days how he managed to escape the ruins, and one day he decided to go alone and investigate. He came back to the tower, whereupon he saw a big orc sitting on the rocks. He unsheathed his weapon and then asked a question in the human language, but was amazed when he saw that the orc could speak in the human tongue. He started a conversation with the orc. He told Tyrion everything about orcish history that Tyrion had no idea of. Fordring thought that the orcs were demons, savages, and beasts that come to destroy the world, but Eitrigg convinced him the other way. He told him that orcs were noble warriors corrupted by the demons. He said that he had run away from his kind and is now living as a hermit. He had been hiding in the woods for years. Tyrion, amazed by his story and grateful because the orc had saved his life, swore to Eitrigg by his honor that he would not come to harm as long as he didn't attack human kin. Now, Tyrion was a man of honor. His honor was the most important thing that he had. In the meantime, while Tyrion was talking to the orc, Barthalos made the scene back in Mardenholde Keep. Barthalos was an orphan, his parents murdered by orcs. He swore upon their graves that he would avenge them. He became obsessed with killing orcs. He told everyone that orcs were planning a siege upon their hold. Now, Tyrion came back to the keep, and he saw Sidon Dathrohan, his old army friend and his superior. He traveled all the way from Stratholme to deal with the emergency. He said that Barthalos had called him. Dathrohan had immediately ordered a search for the orc. Tyrion was worried about the orc. He had sworn that he would keep him safe, and now they were tracking down the orc. They had found the orc and begun to overwhelm him. 2 footmen started whipping the orc. That is when Tyrion exploded. He grabbed the whip and began lashing back at the footmen. He tried to free the orc. Everyone stared at him with disappointment. Dathrohan had arrested him for treachery and taken him to Stratholme for a trial. After a few days, Tyrion had been taken to the courtroom. The judges were all famous leaders. Atonidas, Prince Arthas, Proudmoore, Archbishop Alsus Fowl. The main judge was the famous Uthor the Lightbringer. Tyrion had explained to them that he made a pact with the orc and that the orc had saved his life. Uthor told him that if he breaks the pact he can go free of charge, but Tyrion was stubborn. His honor was the most important thing that he has. He couldn't break his word. He didn't break the pact with the orc and his sentence was harsh. Uthor the Lightbringer had stripped him of his powers of the light and had exiled him out of the Alliance. Tyrion was sent back home to gather supplies, then early the next morning get escorted out of the Alliance lands. He said goodbye to his family, took his horse, and the road back to Stratholme. He had disguised himself and went to the square where he saw a bruised, barely alive orc being dragged to the main stage to be executed. When he saw that, he grabbed his hammer and attacked the executioners and the guards. He was strong enough to take down the guards, but he knew he was going to get crushed when the vanguard arrives. Then suddenly, he heard boom, boom. It was drums. Suddenly, the whole city was being attacked by orcs. Tyrion, grabbing the opportunity, freed Eitrigg and ran away to the woods. Eitrigg's heart stopped beating, though Tyrion was stripped of his powers of the light. He called upon the powers once again and brought life back into Eitrigg. Then a blue-eyed war chief came to him named Thrall, taking the old Eitrigg that he had been searching a long time for, and went into the shadows. On that day, Eitrigg and Tyrion became honor brothers. After that, Tyrion lived out the rest of his exile in a small farmstead in the northwest corner of what eventually became the Eastern Plaguelands, on the shores of the Throndir River, with his trusty horse Mirador. During the Third War, he often fought off the undead Scourge. He was dismayed to find out later that his son, Talon, had joined the Scarlet Crusade, and had even become the High Lord of the Order. Nonetheless, he kept watching his son from afar, and even enlisted some adventurers to help as he and a few crusaders had become trapped in a small village of Cinderholm, surrounded by the Scourge forces who were interrupting the Crusade's attempt to resettle the area. Later, Tyrion turned to adventurers yet again to have them collect mementos of his son's past, which finally enabled him to convince his son to leave the Crusade, only to see him killed in the attempt. Spurred by his son's death, Tyrion resolved to reform the original Silver Hand as a force of good within the world. I hope you liked this lesson. Give us your feedback about the new show. By the way, if you want to learn more about this series, go ahead and read the book called Of Blood and Honor. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about Thrall's capture. That's all for this episode. Have a nice day.